Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. It is, where are we here? It is Tuesday, 17th of December. You have 1 week and 1 day to finish your Christmas shopping season. And also, too, this is going to be a really weird sort of week or two ahead of us. I'm still totally convinced that the risk on part of the market is melting up into this 1 year anniversary of the meltdown last year. And also, too, I think that's the end of a very long bull run. But, we'll see what happens. It's only Brian's opinion. But at the same time, too, we've got a really weird week next week. We have big December options expiry coming up on Friday. Then we're going to head into a really weird vacuum where, of course, Wednesday's Christmas, Thursday's going to be holidays for a lot of the world, not the Americans. And then we'll be sort of heading into New Year's tax loss selling deadlines, 27th. So there's a whole bunch of really wonky stuff going on around here in the market. So just be cognizant of that. As well, too, political situation. For some reason, the Democrats in the states are really pressing this whole impeachment thing. Who knows what's going to happen out of that, but probably most eyeballs are going to be glued to that. And I'm not even quite sure how that is all going to play out through the holiday, but we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. Right out of the gate, of course, we always like to look at good old greenback just to sort of get an idea of where we are, what the trends are. To a certain degree, I actually think, and it would make more sense to me, to be honest with you, that we're in sort of a U.S. economy is growing, but at the same time, too, the Fed has basically said we're not really planning on raising interest rates anymore. So I do like the idea the U.S. dollar is stuck in a trading range, but we're sort of heading towards sort of that growth side of the range. U.S. dollar's relatively weak. European currencies, of course, British pound has rallied smartly. Has that rallied into a resistance level? We talked about that last on the daily brief today, but on balance, I do like the idea of the U.S. dollar index working its way lower. Of course, markets never move in a straight line. So we'll see how this goes. Certainly not really the best trade location, either long or short, right at the moment. But if we get down against these candle lows, I might be looking for some sort of pivot down in there. But as we said just a moment ago, risk on. And again, still market's just going parabolic straight up here, especially the oil. This is crazy. But nonetheless, markets will do what they do. And if anything, in a weird sort of way, the oil market euphoria, to me, it actually, I don't mind the idea of if oil is very strong, technology and technology stock demand is relatively weak. And I also wonder, too, whether, rising energy prices or the perception that they're going to go parabolic actually sort of takes away from the sort of profitability of mining Bitcoins. I'm still sort of, on the fence about whether the perceived trend in energy prices affects crypto valuations. But, it's been clear as day since this backed event and Cool Kelly shitting on Bitcoin that on balance the trend has been down. No doubt about that. And actually, we even got fresh sell signals here. And then, of course, unfortunately, the sort of thesis of correlation has completely disconnected. And as one viewer of their channels likes to point out, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is still very, very heavily manipulated in this market. So can you really draw a lot of correlation through that manipulation? I don't know. But student of the market, always learning. Fascinating to watch this play itself out. Interesting, too, with stocks and oil as strong as they are. I would have honestly expected bonds to be much weaker, inflation, fears, all that kind of talk. And actually, I would have expected gold to be weaker, but you can see gold's just sort of hanging in here. With regard to gold, I'm a little concerned that maybe we've gone a little too far too fast. AB equals CD levels hit on the gold stocks. Biggest gold stock in the world actually did put in an empire top. Second biggest, but they want their title back. Looks to me like he's empiring out. So I wouldn't be surprised, and you can see I sort of drawn just visuals here. If we actually have to see the gold stocks maybe clean up this straight line move up, and maybe we see a bit of weakness, and that does correspond with the idea of the oil market going parabolic here into that sort of 1 year anniversary of risk on, risk off collapse last year. Also, too, on the gold stocks in particular, we have this reload short zone against the original top. I haven't done the fibs up here, but you can kind of see where reload short zones would be up here. And gee whiz, on that AB equals CD target objective, big fat round number, $100. Look at this beautiful M top that's coming in here. And one might argue that a move below this low here in earnest is probably your sell signal. So, it makes sense. And then also, too, like I said, with energy looking as strong as it is, seeing a bit of weakness in oil does make sense. Seeing a bit of weakness in gold does make sense. Risk on, risk off. Risk on, still catching a bid. Risk off, But interesting to see that risk off is not getting whacked, considering that the oil and the stock market are booming higher. Risk off is just sort of treading water here. Speaking of energy, the interesting thing about this is we did have some pretty clear-cut tells about a month and a half ago on things like Halliburton. We had outside upside key reversals, and you can see what happens following those kind of events. Huge bullish sign. I've been squawking about things like this Ring Energy, great looking chart, just broke out to new highs again here today. And I actually do like the idea. This happens to be an oil services stock, but if you look at a lot of the big major integrateds, I like the idea that if they're feeling like their balance sheet is stronger, and if we do hear about talk of drawing down reserves and stuff like that, the bigger oil companies will just simply come along and just buy out these smaller oil companies that are profitable and that actually have pretty good looking balance sheets. So I love being in this part of the market right now. Things like this Ring Energy, just, que bella. And of course, I'm long from this guy. I think I'm just long from the double bottom breakout. But my job right now is just don't touch this. Just leave it alone. Heading on over to crypto. And, just maybe before we leave that, TRI, we've spent a lot of time developer cycle, building out tools. And of course, we have automated screeners now on the site that are basically coming online here. And I think I had shown you guys just recently, I think it was yesterday. Actually, it was a couple days ago because the signal came in a couple days ago. But another good example. In the free video yesterday, I think I pointed this out. Got beautiful outside upside key reversal. And this is a really good example of what I would consider rational analysis, in that technically speaking, we're right down the bottom end of the range. We also have a reload zone within a reload zone. Internally, started to get some really interesting looking structure here on price momentum and volume momentum. Beautiful key reversal signal here. Hugely powerful signal. And our automated screening system actually sends you notifications of events like this in your email. I mean, how polite is that, eh? So super stoked for us. But here's just a good example. This is a key reversal signal in mid-stride. It's just getting going here. And, like I said, rational analysis. This company's in the agricultural services industry. They're in the potash and fertilizer business. So corn right now, I believe, is a huge political football. So not only do we have good fundamentals, the balance sheet of the company looks good. We have a fundamental driver, trade wars with China being resolved, yada, yada, yada. China's going to buy a bunch of U.S. agricultural products. And then you get this big, and of course, seasonally, this is the time of year to buy the eggs. And then technically, you get these beautiful breakout signals and just go with it. So there's a signal, and I would take my little drawing tool, right? And I would just, I'll just do this for you guys, but, I did this when Halliburton, and we saw that signal manually. So I didn't really take it, but that's sort of exactly the same sort of thinking as, what the hell did I do with the chart? I guess I put it over here. Yeah. Same sort of thinking as that Halliburton. That is the key reversal, and there's the end result. So great. This is an analogy of, well, that's well after the fact of the key reversal. This is actually, it's happening right now. So really, really good example. But I just wanted to simply show you, we do have some energy exposure. And I remember I've been, for the public, I've been squawking about how bullish I've been of energy for a while now. So I do have one other energy stock that's on the books, but they didn't report nearly as good looking earnings as this REI. So it's just sort of floundering right now, but nonetheless, it's still working. I just wanted to point out this REI, really pristine earnings report, and it's breaking to new highs. Great to see. Finish off this report, quick boo at crypto. Of course, unfortunately, we've talked lots about this recently. It shouldn't be news to anybody, but on balance, we got lots of failure signals here right out of the gate. I guess even a couple weeks ago. So you can't even say that this wasn't known ahead of time. We all saw this happen in glorious Technicolor in real time, slow motion. So you can't even say that this was, it was untradeable. I couldn't do anything. I mean, it was pretty well telegraphed. And as you can see, there's no real reason to be thinking about any sort of bottoms here just yet. And if anything, it was kind of funny, like on the site, we're, constantly watching, hunting, trading gazillions of different setups, trying to be demonstrators of best practices, yada, yada, yada. Red background, that means all the moving averages are pointing down, and Mr. Day Trader, of course, is hunting shorts. So that shouldn't surprise anybody. And it was really interesting that through this event, there was a counter-trend rally that developed through the weekend. And we just simply had a rule on the site that we're not allowed to actually short while we had things like bullish divergences in play. And we basically had no choice. We had to sit and just wait for those divergences to play themselves out. So that was this conversation through here. So you can see the little div. And we even highlighted on the RSI, okay, got to cool your jets. As soon as we got into RSI trendline resistance, MACD trendline resistance, we never did break out of there. And then if you drill down to the 1 hours at this point, we're back into moving average resistance. That's where we drill down to sort of like that 1 hour chart. And what does that failure look like? And man, it was just, I got to say, this was just beautiful. Full disclosure, I didn't take the trade, but look, hindsight's always 20/28, but nonetheless, as you can sort of see, levels that worked away didn't actually hit the move stop till scratch level till here. So you had to exercise just a world of patience and discipline to do absolutely nothing. Then move stop to trailing. Market popped up a little bit. That's probably where you ought to move your stop to trailing level. But, maybe if you dump there, I wouldn't have a problem with that. And then finally the capitulation dump into its target level. This is an interesting level here too because, as I sort of pointed out, I think on this chart, we're at interesting potential harmonic levels. And we had this level sort of traded to yesterday, but not really. And on that event, we didn't really see any divergence in things like volume momentum. Keep in mind, that's a big red bar there, so that's a breakdown. RSI was telling us not to do anything. We broke to new lows through that. So wasn't overly confident with this Gartley idea. But at the same time, too, the interesting thing is if you buy this 78.6, you have to actually risk against these lows. So even with this recent price action, believe it or not, actually, I think this trade idea is still floating out there. The only problem here is, again, I don't see any signs of divergence here whatsoever. So, in the daily brief today, I kind of said, well, I can understand guys taking shots here, or girls, whatever. But I don't know. I don't have enough anecdotal evidence here to say that the trade location, yes, that's check number one. Keep in mind, harmonic levels are PRZs, which stands for potential reversal zone. So, yeah, it's potential. But no divs, and certainly no Ws. I gotta maybe just cool my jets. So that's sort of how I'm looking at this. But I fully understand, especially now we've gone to new lows. Those bearish bot kind of setups, they've all hit their objectives, coming into some really interesting levels. Like, it actually turns out that this is, if we take this entire range, this is 88.6 of that range, and notice there's our low. Also notice too, we got 1.618 golden ratio floating out there. And notice that when we came into these lows, now we are starting to see the divergences potentially developing. This won't be confirmed until we actually W out here, but at least we've got the makings now. And ironically enough, from a technical perspective, we can actually start thinking about 50% rules going the other direction, and this might actually set up a half-decent trade idea. So, really what I see here is I see a trading range, and all those really slick, smart, savvy day traders, swing traders, I really don't have a problem if they're like, all right, now just give me a nice divergence confirmed and then a W. I'm going to be gunning for this 7,200 area. That really wouldn't surprise me one bit. Having said that, though, for like position traders, moms and pops and all that kind of stuff, if we have any signs of a bottom here at all, and the answer clearly is no. It's just way too early for us to declare bottoms. Now, I'll leave off with, just because the big three and Bitcoin's acting that way, that doesn't mean all cryptocurrencies are acting that way. And look at this cheeky little bug. Again, we should probably try and value our assets versus some sort of stable fiat currency base. I was commenting recently that coins like UBIC were looking really uppy versus Bitcoin. But when you actually look at UBIC versus US dollar, it's not really doing anything. So why is UBIC rallying here? Maybe it's more a function that Bitcoin's actually going down in price and UBIC is just going sideways. So I really think it's a good idea for you to take a look at your coin versus USD. And this is a kind of situation, frankly speaking, I have no idea what's going to happen here. Nobody does. But if you're thinking about taking a risk in the marketplace, this isn't a bad area to be thinking. I mean, even if you just go and buy there and you say, look I see just a gazillion lows here. They might F you, big tail here, but if we close the day below here, fine, I'll just walk away. But watch what happens when I zoom out. Even if we just go back to the summer, is it realistic to think about a 50% retracement of this range? And what kind of returns does that potentially produce? That's a 4-to-1 risk reward coming in, just taking a shot here and just simply saying, look, if it breaks these lows, I'm going to get out, but I'll even give myself enough of a window that if it closes down here, I'll walk away. 50% rule, 4-to-1 risk reward, and all that is just a return to the POC. Seems to me we're setting up some very interesting trading ideas here. And then what happens if we actually do catch the bottom here? Number one, can I actually think about things like selling half on a double? What a coincidence. That's 18 cents and that's 40 cents. Do you think that's an accident? I don't. But watch what happens if let's say I did catch the bottom And I was able to get a half off on a double, let's just say hypothetically. Is there any room for this thing to run up down the road where maybe I could actually like make a fortune? Check this out. Oh, yeah, there's just a little bit of room for this thing to go. Now, hopefully you can see what I mean by, is opportunity now here? Kind of looks like it. I mean, I don't know if this thing's going to bottom. Frankly speaking, looking at this, I don't even really have a problem with Nanny Nibble go in there and just pick up a little bit. What the hell? Don't break the 5% rule. We all know that. But just leave you with an idea that it doesn't look like this thing's even paying the slightest bit of attention to Bitcoin today. Yeah, ultimately, it's going to come down to a decision of personal fit. But a guy like me, that's starting to look pretty darn attractive. Okay, guys, I think I'll leave it at that. Hope you enjoyed the offering. Have yourselves a great day. All the best, and bye for now.